What's a dream you've had that you've never forgotten? The ball bouncing around like it was on a TV screen where each time it came to the edge it would bounce, and each ball was a random color and random size, and it had its own tone for each time it bounced. Keep adding another ball and another until it's just packed with all sorts of balls in all sorts of colors, making all sorts of noises every time they hit a wall at the edge of the screen. It was severely overwhelming, and I remember just waking up super annoyed whenever it happened. More of a nightmare really. But I dreamed I was at my own funeral. I was inside my childhood home, seeing everything from my own POV. All sorts of close family and friends were there, dressed in mourning clothing, but I could not actually interact with any of them. Finally, I make my way upstairs to my parents' room and see there's a casket. Sure enough, I look over and it's me inside. I bolted awake in a cold sweat with my heart racing. It took me a while to calm back down and fall asleep. Really hope I never have that dream again. Had a dream where I was driving down a highway at night, and there was a turn that was several stories high and jutted out into the ocean. I was going way too fast into the turn, and my car slid sideways as I tried to make it. My car hit the side wall at just the right angle that it flipped over and began tumbling downwards into the water. I just remember that the feeling of falling was so realistic, and as I saw the distant light spinning, I had to accept death at that moment. I woke up as I hit the water, and I was very confused. I had a lucid dream last year where I was an alternate version of my small town, but instead of economically depressed, it was thriving, and there was no poverty, drug use, or homelessness. It was amazing. We had large public housing units, passenger rail service, and apple orchards where in my version of the town Walmart and urban sprawl are located. I met a guy in their library who showed me around town. It was all surreal. The only knock on their town was the ice cream parlor downtown only had 3 ice cream flavors. I had a few recurring dreams as a child. In one, I was on a steamboat on the river in like a sooty Industrial Revolution London. There were sharks in the water. It was a weird combination of Oliver Twist and Jaws. I'm pretty sure the whole dream had a sepia filter. In another, I was exploring a jungle and came across a random hotel. I would walk through the hallways and every room was occupied by dinosaurs, specifically dinosaurs as they appeared in Jurassic Park. For context, I grew up in suburban Pennsylvania, the one where my son, who was 4 at the time, was standing up and playing on a metal chair by a metal table. The chair got tipped forward, trapping his neck between the chair backing and the table's edge. But he tipped the chair so fast that this sheared his head clean off. It rolled along the table and came to a stop with his face clearly trying to scream, but as he no longer had lungs or a larynx, no sound came out. I woke up screaming from that one. I was being chased around a nightclub that was on fire by a man on crutches. Aunt Pale grabbed my arm and told me we had to leave. As soon as we were outside, she told me that she'd had a dream and proceeded to tell me the same dream I had. I never told anyone about that dream. When I was probably about 10, I had a dream where I was pissing in a urinal on the middle of a shopping mall. I woke up and realized I was actually pissing in real life, and I pissed the bed. Or so I thought. I went to sleep on the couch and told my parents about it in the morning. They checked and I absolutely did not piss the bed. It's nothing too crazy, but I was absolutely 1000% certain that I pissed the bed that night, but I didn't. My entire family was hung from giant meat hooks headed towards a massive incinerator, and I had just enough time to walk next to them as they went in saying my goodbyes. It was awful. And the crypt I watched that had me dreaming up scary stuff, like that one episode in particular where the dude is completely alive but everyone thinks his body is clinically dead and he's in the morgue. I have reoccurring stress dreams. Driving a car and not being in control, brakes fail, can't steer properly, etc. Getting in an elevator and it plunges down very fast, very suddenly, needing to call 911 an emergency. A phone fails, can't dial 911 properly, can't get through to dispatcher, battery dies, phone is misplaced, etc. While these are kinda concerning when seeing them written out all together, lol. Oh, get help. I could physically feel how warm all the blood was and my arms pulsating. and how heavy my clothes were getting from the blood, and there was just a trail all down the stairs and in the snow. I woke up shortly after hitting the bottom of the stairs and was freaking the fuck out. I used to fly a lot for work, one where the plane would fly through the large cities and skyscrapers, and the tips of the wings would tap buildings and we would bounce off the road and barely make it through without fully crashing. It was not fun and it was recurrent. I'm flying in 2 days and again next week, London to Lagos, and then Lagos to Atlanta. I'm not looking forward to it. I dreamed of a time when I was a kid and I could run forever. It felt I had wheels for feet. I ran through fields, beaches and mountains. Then I could see the finish line. But before I could cross it, I woke up. I'm old now, and I can't run much fast anymore. Life has slowed me down. Shoulders are burdened with responsibility. That's one dream I will never forget. One day I will cross the finish line. I was relaxing in my treehouse at the bois. SpongeBob and Patrick were playing with paper airplanes while me, Luz and Nagito were playing Fortnite. We heard a slash and I discovered Sandy there, dead. And it was up to me to clear Patrick's name and prove he wasn't Sandy's killer. After 30 minutes of back and forth, I used the numbers 11,037 to implicate my crabs. Why mother die? I dreamed I was unloading groceries or something and my mum pulled up with a friend. And when I expressed my shock that she was there, she said she was fine. She'd just been on vacation. It was one of those super real feeling dreams. Even to this day, I interpreted it as wherever she's at, she's fine. I dreamt I fell off the side of a building and died. I got up wondering how I survived. And then I looked down at my mangled body. I started trying to get back into it, but I couldn't. And I started crying. Two people on top of the building said they would say I just committed suicide. And I had promised someone at the time I wouldn't. In the dream I was an adult, but I was in the alley behind my childhood home. I was holding a baby that wasn't mine. And I was just staring at this grizzly bear at the end of the alley on its hind legs. I was not scared. I just stood there with the baby. That's all I remember about it. But it was over a decade ago thanks melatonin. I think these are dreams where I realize that I am in a dream and endow myself with magic to fight monsters, and one dream that says that something will happen when I am 17 years old. In my stupidity, I said that I would not be like the characters in the movies and would not ask about what would happen when I turned 17 years old. FFA swing backwards, forcing all the air out my lungs. As I lift my head up and recovered my breath, a male figure appears walking towards me from around a corner. There is a beautiful glow everywhere. I never felt love like that in my life. The feeling lasted for weeks, and I still remember it 20 years later. When I was 5, I dreamed of brightly colored bears wearing party hats and riding tricycles pulling little trailers. Each bear represented a different ice cream flavor, and their trailers had corresponding ice cream in them. I also regularly dream about cartoon crabs stealing my toes and zombie apocalypses. About 30 years ago, I was riding on a wooden roller coaster after descending down a steep hill. Gravity forces the coaster up a launching hill and the track disappears and we are soaring over a lake. As we descend near the other side of the lake, the track reappears and we land perfectly on the track. I dreamt that I was about to receive a heart transplant. The donor was a pony, like they walked it in to see me and everything. He was so small and shaggy. The head surgeon was Arnold Schwarzenegger. If anyone is good at dream interpretation, I'd love some insight into this one. For a solid year or so, I had the same dream or hallucination. I genuinely couldn't tell every single night that the walls of my room were slowly getting closer to me, and my room was getting smaller. It really messed up my sleep schedule for a while. When I was about 5 or so, I had a dream where my mum rolled over my head with the car and my head popped. I also had a dream about that time where I got washed down the tub drain. Both of those were scary enough to stick with me for the past 40 years. Not long after I moved into my house, I had a dream where I was visited by the previous tenant. The dream itself was short, with the person saying, "Please look after the house." This dream happened about 13 years ago, and I've not forgotten it. Add the best recurring dream for the past 20 years while I'm hand gliding above a dense forest, dodging mountain peaks, petting eagles, waving at bears, catching salmon from a stream and never landing. I've never been hand gliding in my life. I dreamt I was flying. It was the most real dream I ever had in my entire life. I could feel the wind and the sunlight. I could smell the fields I was flying over. Everything was so real I never wanted to stop. I was 4 or 5 years old, and I dreamed this big round cartoonish spider was in the upper corner of my room and was starting to crawl towards me. I can picture it now like I just dreamed it last night. When my dad was in a home going through Alzheimer's, I had really vivid dream about waking up in a home myself and not knowing where or who I was. It was really frightening, so much so I woke up shaking. I was 5 when I had a dream that a friendly wish started to take me everywhere through teleportation. I only knew big famous tourist attractions due to little Einsteins, so it felt like an amazing trip. I recently lost my grandma, and I prayed to God asking if I could please see her one last time. That night I dreamed that she came and had a conversation with me for a few minutes. I never forgot that I was just convicted of a crime in a court, and 2 officers grabbed me and dragged me off to a barn, tied me to a horse, and were about to let the horse gallop and drag me as punishment. I once had a dream where I was hanging out with my dad. My dad was killed when I was 6. I've only had 2 dreams that he's been in since he died, and I hope I never forget them. I dream a lot because I have a sleep condition, but one theme that come back often is I dream that I have a new life, but in the end I finish in the same place with the same person. When I was in 3rd grade I had a dream that I won exactly $55 million in the lottery and was so disappointed when I woke up every time the lottery is 55 million I play.